Next guest had an interesting piece in the Wall Street Journal with an imaginary conversation between Fleece Vest Republican and MAGA Hat Republican, essentially a discussion about Trump versus someone other than Trump. We'll let him present sort of the divided Republican mind, if you will, and perfect timing against the backdrop of the Newsom DeSantis debate from last night we were discussing. Gerard Baker is editor-at-large for Wall Street Journal, author of American Breakdown, Why We No Longer Trust Our Leaders and Institutions and How We Can Rebuild Confidence. Gerard Baker, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dan. Amy, lovely to be with you.
So I read from your piece that you were agreeing with both some of the points that Fleece Vest Republican, I think Mitt Romney, was making, as well as MAGA Hat Republican making, and you just sort of left the discussion up for your readers to decide on which side of the divide they fall. What about after last night's performance from DeSantis? Does that move you in one direction or the other?
No, not really. I mean, look, I think DeSantis clearly had the better of Gavin Newsom. I mean, it's not that difficult. I mean, the issues are really very much on DeSantis' side, especially on issues like tax and when Newsom says things that are just sort of palpably false, like more Floridians moving to California, Californians moving to Florida, then I think I think it was clear that DeSantis has the better argument. I just think the problem for DeSantis within the Republican Party is that he doesn't make that case as convincingly as Donald Trump does. I mean, this is. Thank you very much for referring to my column. I mean, this was a sort of just like as you said, a sort of an imaginary conversation between a kind of a never Trumper and a Trumper, really, which is the sort of dividing line in the Republican Party. And as far as the Trump argument goes, is there anybody who is better at making the case that we need to take our country back from these progressive elites, by people like Gavin Newsom, than Donald Trump? I don't think there is. And to be clear, as I made clear in the column, there are lots and lots and lots of reasons not to vote for Donald Trump, but all to do with his character and all to do with his behavior, particularly after the last election. But again, if you think that we face an existential challenge from these people who basically control control almost all elements of our society, then is anyone better capable of bringing together voters from across the spectrum to vote to get to against those elites than Donald Trump? I don't think there is, and I don't think Ron DeSantis does it.
Well, the other thing about that, too, this sort of fictional discussion, which is a real one, I mean, representative of a real one that's happening, a debate, is, for the somebody other than Trump, the establishment types, if you will, are all over the place. So it's not like you have they're settling and they're sticking with Ron DeSantis. Now you see migration to Nikki Haley because DeSantis doesn't seem to be gaining traction. I don't really see this as much of a performance-based migration from DeSantis to Haley, actually. I don't think there's been a big moment that said, oh, well, now it's obviously Nikki Haley and not Ron DeSantis. DeSantis has had a couple missteps, but so has Haley, including recently talking about censorship online by way of forcing people out of any anonymity. That's unpopular. So that lack of a place to land also speaks to the Trump voters' position of, look, you guys are just don't like Trump because of his personality, because of this. You can't present any evidence that he is any worse positioned against Biden than these other candidates. And you can't even settle on somebody. It's DeSantis, it's Nikki Haley, it's talking about maybe Glenn Youngkin, trying to get him in the race. So you're not doing anything out of principle. And so you're not doing anything that represents my interests. You're just doing something that represents sort of the interests of always inside the Beltway. And people are rightly suspicious of that.
No, I think that's exactly right, Dan. I mean, Haley has clearly moved up in polls on the back of some very strong debate performances. I think she has done well, and she's got a very direct manner, which has performed well, and she's taken on DeSantis to some extent. She's taken on Vivek Ramaswamy, and she's impressed. But I think you're right. I mean, I think the problem with with Haley, and I think that's why she's moved up, particularly against DeSantis. And DeSantis is always as just disappointed. I don't just mean in the debates, but just DeSantis can't. DeSantis' problem is he's just trying to be sort of like a kind of a sort of a more acceptable version of Donald Trump, right? I mean, and well, for Trump supporters, that's like, well, I don't need a more acceptable version of Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump. And for those who don't really want Donald Trump, then they're thinking, well, I don't really want an acceptable version of Donald Trump because I don't like Donald Trump. So I think DeSantis has sort of has declined for those reasons. Look, the problem with Haley is, what is it? And this worries me about her. As impressive as she's been, what does she really stand for? I mean, I think she's the position she's carved out for herself over the last few months is like a return to the Republican Party pre-Donald Trump, right? The sort of the Mitt Romney, John McCain, if you like, even George W. Bush Republican Party, which the Republican voters have rejected. And again, while I am not, as you well know, Dan, we've had this conversation many times, I'm not a Donald Trump fan. If you want to really shake up the system, if you really are tired with the way the country has been run, if you're tired with both parties, with the establishment, the failure of Republicans in particular to really take on these progressive elites, why would you vote for Nikki Haley, who looks like she's sort of campaigning to be, taking the party back to where it was before, taking Republicans back to where it was before? So I think, this is why I'm not surprised that Donald Trump continues to have a 50-point lead in the opinion polls in the Republican primary.
Well, Mr. Baker, don't you think one problem with DeSantis is that he just doesn't look comfortable up there? He's not embracing the position, I think, that he's in, and he just looks nervous, and then he makes these weird facial expressions and twitches. I mean, do you think that could be a part of it too?
Yeah, he does come across. You're absolutely right, Amy, as sort of awkward, right? I mean, and this has been true throughout the debates. We'll never forget that first debate, I think it was, where he kind of did that weird smile where he was sort of caught, like someone had told him, this is how you smile, rather than just like a natural smile. And I think there were a couple of moments like that last night. Yeah, he doesn't look. He's not again, Trump's great strengths are that there's a strange quality to Donald Trump, which is that although he says a lot of stuff that's nonsense, although he says a lot of stuff that isn't true, although he, frankly, let's be honest, he lies through his teeth half the time, there is an honesty about him, which is that this is the man, this is the guy. You get what you see. You see what you get with Donald Trump. He is. He doesn't. There's no artifice. There's no, attempt to sort of tell people what they want to hear. He's straight. He does tell people what he thinks, how he feels, and a lot of people identify with that. DeSantis is just always this sense. This is a man, degrees from Harvard and Yale, a period in Congress. This is a man who looks like he's got a sort of a kind of a schooled quality to him. It's like everything he's been told about politics, he has to have learned, and I don't think that comes across as authentic. I was amused to see that Merriam-Webster say that the word of the year this year is authentic. DeSantis just doesn't come across as a very authentic character, whereas in his strange way, Donald Trump does.
Yeah, and the other thing, I mean, associated with that is, again, lived experience. People actually saw him perform for 4 years, a good, bad, and the ugly. Is that, he did act in furtherance of what he said he would do, whether he was always successful or not. He attempted or accomplished what he said he was going to attempt.
Right, he did. Yeah, exactly. And I think, look, and again, I do think, despite his sort of slightly weird kind of verbal tics and visual tics, I do think DeSantis did get the better of Newsom last night, again, because I think the arguments are just so powerfully in his favor. But again, it's not. It doesn't come across as enormously authentic. Whereas I think that is what Trump does. Trump just people identify with Trump because he says things from instinctively, from the heart that people actually agree with. And I think that's it's on the Republican side, and particularly they are tired of these politicians who have promised things and said they're going to do things and have tried to articulate positions that in the end have come to nothing. And Trump, as you say, sort of gets things done. And I think that's why I find it very hard to believe he won't get the Republican nomination.
Gerard Baker is editor-at-large, Wall Street Journal. He's the author of the book American Breakdown, Why We No Longer Trust Our Leaders and Institutions and How We Can Rebuild Confidence. American Breakdown from Gerard Baker. Gerard, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you both. Very nice to see you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
It's hard to believe, but 2024 will be here soon. Before you get caught up in all the busy holiday season shopping and whatnot, ask yourself, what are you doing now to put your retirement in a better position for the future? Sean Thompson here for my friend Tom Fortino of Alpha Wealth Group. Tom has prepared a 2023 year-end planning report. This report will show you ways to reduce your tax burden on your retirement savings, income strategies that don't depend on a volatile market, and ideas on how to protect and pass down assets to your loved ones. Tom has been helping build financial plans for retirements for over 2 decades, and he's sharing his knowledge and experience in this report. Call Tom today at 630-934-1855 and ask for the 2023 year-end planning report. That's 630-934-1855 or visit alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour right here on AM 560 The Answer, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Oh, yeah. It's that time for the Pajamagram. And here's something for all you guys that haven't gotten your special someone a holiday gift yet. This Christmas, Pajamagram has got your back with a deluxe gift set for her. And it's one and done, if you know what I mean. The gift set includes the Smooth Seduction Satin Nightie, a robe, plus a free satin eye mask, all wrapped in an elegant satin keepsake bag. You heard that right. 4 gifts delivered right to your door, ready to go under the tree. Silky, sensuous, glides over the skin. Designed to make her feel amazing and drive you wild. The Smooth Seduction
Comfortable
Satin
as
gift.
DeSantis pulling that genderqueer page out yesterday during the debate.
The Smooth Seduction Satin gift, Dan, is your ticket to